So you mentioned Alyssa Milano. Tell us about working with her.
Oh, love her. Oh my God. 10 years old. Already you knew what a brilliant actress she was. She was so beautiful and vulnerable and sassy and all the qualities that made her this extraordinary talent and person. And just watching her grow up, I mean, we watched them grow up for 8 years. And to see her turn into a young woman and to see her supported by her family the way that she was. I mean, there was a lot that was going on. Those are the years where you're changing tremendously. I mean, they're going through puberty, for God's sake. And this, oh my God, this one story. This is so fabulous. Tony, they wrote a show where Tony takes Alyssa to buy a bra for the first time. And it was so fabulous. The network notes came down that said, you cannot say the word bra. And we're like, seriously, like, really, people can't say bra? They said, no, you can't. And so everybody sat around pondering it. And what they came up with was the phrase, foundation garment. So of course it was brilliant and magical. And Tony goes into the store and he's shopping and he says, I'd like to buy my daughter a foundation garment. And the audience just was in hysterics. But something like that can happen, and then something else even better comes out of it. But those scenes between Tony and Alyssa and that kind of beautiful, also chemistry, great chemistry, this tender, beautiful connection. And again, Tony teaching her, and in other ways, her teaching him, and making sure that we did stories that mirrored lives of everybody out in the audience that they would want to see. What it's like for a single dad to be raising a daughter. What's it like to be the person that is bringing up this young woman, and what does it mean that she's starting to go out with boys, and all of those stories that everybody out in the audience could relate to. Mm-hmm. And Alyssa just did them so beautifully and just so true. And she's just a really special girl, and she still is. Mm-hmm. And she's just incredible. And now she's a mother. She's a mother. Astonishing. And of course, I mean, she's a great mother. Not the point. The point is that the years have gone on. You realize how many years it is now.
It's over 30 now, 31 this year, I think.
It's going to be 31 years that we finished in 1992. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell us about working with Danny Pintaro, who played your son.
Love that boy. Loved everybody on that show. There was a tremendous amount of love. And I don't mean that in some sort of, oh, we all loved each other. It was so great. I mean it in a deeper sense. I mean, we went through a lot together. Tony, let me talk about Jonathan, and then let me tell you something about my relationship with Tony that I think is very important. Jonathan was so little when he first came on the show, and so darling, and he'd just done this big movie, Cujo, with the big dog, and, I mean, he was just so funny and delicious and fragile and just a beautiful, beautiful soul. And then he went through a lot. He really did. And I have such pride in him for his process and how scary it was. I remember he called me when one of the magazines was calling him to tell his people that they found out that he was gay and that they were going to out him. And did he want to do anything about that? And Danny called me, and I spoke to him. And when he came out, he called me, and he called Tony. And Tony was remarkable with him. He said, I'm here for you, buddy. It's great, whatever you need. And Danny said to me, they're calling me, they're going to out me. What do I do? And I said, I think you need to talk to Herb. And because Herb and Jonathan had been on the set the whole time, so they were like family with all of us. And Danny called Herb, and Herb said, you've got to get ahead of this, and you need to do an interview and talk about it. And he did. So brave. At the time, it was not as like it is now. I mean, we still have a long way to go, but it was really much more complicated then. And he did it. And it was, he went through a lot of bullying, name-calling, trauma, and he has come out of it. I just saw him at the opening of Tony's show, Honeymoon in Vegas, married to this wonderful guy, substantive, intelligent. I mean, please, he was a brain. I mean, I think he went to Stanford. I mean, he's just really an extraordinary person. So proud of him.
So Tony had come from Taxi, and you guys had another TV vet on your cast, Katherine Helmond.
Yeah.
Talk about working with her.
It was so great. I was in awe of her. First of all, I said, oh my God, we have Katherine Helmond on the show. And after we finished the pilot, she hand wrote notes of thanks to everyone.
Oh, wow.
I mean, she is the person who taught me about being gracious, about being kind, about when there were shows when she didn't always have a lot to do, she was there. It didn't matter, 1,000%. I would watch her, and she was committed. And then when she had lots of stuff to do, she was off the charts. She was extraordinary. But remember, this is a woman who started in repertory theater. She started at Trinity Rep. And she had a background in the theater. She had a background in all of this great body of work. And then, of course, she had been on soap. And she was remarkable. And so she was another person that I kept learning from. And we would just sit there and have the most incredible conversations. And she taught me so much, just about not misusing your talent. Also taught me a lot about comic timing as well. And then, they wrote a spin-off for her, which was pretty fantastic, and it ended up not getting picked up. And I watched how she dealt with the disappointment of that with such grace. And she was just, I had this one show that we did together on Who's the Boss. It was one storyline about how Angela said, I'm going to be at home and I'm going to do Tony's job, and Tony is going to go out in the world. And it was one of our funniest shows. It was called Harried Housekeeper. And what I remember about that show is the support that Katherine gave to me. I mean, it was all about dealing with my mother. She was at home, the kids were at home, I was having to do breakfast, things that Angela had no idea how to do. And it was Katherine who just was there in support of me. And there'd be some times where she would say something about the way I was doing something. She said, maybe if you just hit the spatula on this note. And Tony did that all the time, too. I mean, Tony he was unabashed in his giving input. It was like, no, this will make it funnier. And invariably, it would make it funnier. So, another incredible learning experience.